Yes.
You're up.
Okay. I will share screen here. Okay. All right. So this is a technique I got off the internet, and I've kind of made my own version of it. But um, if anybody wants to try it, I've got the steps all typed out. I can send them to you.
I will definitely want the steps.
Okay.
I
Me
do
too.
I'm
too.
there, Ernie.
I'll
Yeah.
send them to everybody then.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ernie.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you start with an image that you like. Um, I like one that has bright colors in it, and I think preferentially I like it to have a little bit of everything, sort of people and objects and some white space. But I think everything kind of works okay with this technique. And I looked for kind of a landscapey thing. I don't have a lot of them, but I had this one here that I took when we were in Zion. But I thought I'd try the technique with that. Let me get your faces out of my way here. All right, so the first thing you do is you duplicate your image. I do that with a Command J. Okay, Command J, duplicate the image. And then I add a texture, and you can get your textures, you know, from the internet. I've got a collection of them. I make my own sometimes. I've taken a crumpled piece of paper and then scan it, or I take pictures whenever I'm out of grainy kinds of things like the salton sea sand or bricks or a wall or whatever. But in this case, I've got this paper overlay here, and I just grab it and move it onto my picture here and place it. And then I'll make it full size so that it covers up everything. Good. Okay. And then I move that underneath my original here like that. And then the first thing I do is I take this top layer here and I go to Filter, Stylize, Find Edges. And it turns it into that. Then I desaturate it. So I use Shift Command U, and it takes all of the color out of it. And then it's kind of optional, but for me, I like to add a curves adjustment layer here. And I clip it to that layer that I just created. Then I make a kind of a big S shape so it lightens up the light parts and darkens up the dark parts. It makes it look more like a drawing.
Nothing subtle about that S-curve.
No, I call it a strong S curve. And then I take the original layer and I move it to the top of the layer stack. So that's this bottom layer here. It's easier just to do layer, arrange, bring to the front. That's back on the top. Then I turn off that edge layer down beneath for the time being. And then this is, use whatever technique you like to turn this original one into some painterly effect. I use the one that's here on Photoshop, but I don't have topaz impressions. For those of you that do, I think that's probably a really good way to do it, but I don't have it, so I do it like this. I go to Filter, Stylize, and I use oil paint. And you mess with your settings and get it to look however you want. There's mine. I'm going to tone that down maybe a little bit. But. So there's the underlying painterly layer. Then I add a black layer mask to that. So now you see that thing again there. And now I'm going to use a white watercolor brush to kind of selectively reveal the painterly effect underneath. But it could take a minute to talk about watercolor brushes. These are basically brush strokes that look like watercolor. I've got a bunch of them. Mine look kind of like this. I've got tons of them that I downloaded. There's different kinds. There's some more. And you can get them if you don't have them. When you have a brush selected, if you go up to where the brushes are and you click on it, you get your brush panel. And there where that little gear is, if you click on that gear, you can see get more brushes. And those brushes are free to everybody that has Photoshop. And when you click on it, you get a big selection layer. And these are all, you can see all the different brushes. These are packs of brushes. There's dozens and dozens of brushes. And all you do is log in with your Photoshop password and you get access to all those brushes. And then when you click on them, they automatically load into your program. So it's really pretty simple. All right, so let's go here. So anyhow, now I've got my black layer mask. I'm going to select a brush. Here I'm going to use, this is one of those that came with the Photoshop thing. You get all these here. I like this one that's called Splish Splash variant. So I choose that Splish Splash variant. You can see it there. That's what it looks like. You can make different sizes. I like to make mine a little bit bigger. And one thing, whenever you choose a brush, you need to always go up and check your mode, make sure it's in normal. Your opacity should be reduced somewhat. I like to start with the main area and I maybe start around 70%. And then all my other brushes I do at a smaller opacity. And then the flow's at 100%. And you make sure that your color here is white. And then this brush, when you click on it and hold it, it spreads. So you kind of got to watch it carefully, but I want to click on that horse rider somewhere. And as I do, you can see it kind of comes into focus there. Then I go around and switch brushes. So if we switch here to, I have my watercolor brushes that I downloaded here. There they are. And I'm going to use, what did I say I would use? Wet ink. Yeah, so I've got these wet ink brushes here. And I'm going to use number 9, 369 there. You can see the kind of see the shape of that. It's a little bit large, so I'm going to make that smaller. And then I'm going to lower the opacity, maybe down to 50% and click there and it starts to bring in the image. Then here's another thing you can do when you click on the brushes here. See this little circle? You can dial it, turn it around. It changes the angle of the brush. And you grab one of these handles and you can squeeze it. It'll change the shape of the brush. So you see how it is there? Mm-hmm. And then click around with that. And notice I try to stay away from the edges and you'll see why in a minute. Let's make this a little smaller and click a couple times here and there. And then choose another brush, which was, what was I getting? Wet Ink 3. That's this one. And that's got a big round shape to it. And we'll change the opacity of that, maybe make that a little, what is that? Brush. Make the opacity a little less. Click there and down here and kind of there and maybe a little over there, some up there. And you do that until you get it to look kind of the way you want it to look. Using a variety of brush shapes and sizes and orientations and opacities. And then I take that layer and I duplicate the layer. And you see it kind of brightens up everything. I change the layer to soft light and lower the opacity a little bit till you get a look that you like. And then turn the edge layer back on. And you can see what it's going to look like and you think, well, maybe I need a little bit more somewhere, and you can go back to your layers and choose your brush again and maybe come in a little bit more on both your layers. You kind of make it look the way you want it to look. And then the last thing I do is I take I add a black layer mask onto this edge layer. And then using that brush, go around and bring in those details, kind of just the edgy looking stuff, kind of just where you want it. And there's a lot of variations of this. You can use different blend modes along the way, and you can use different layer orders, etc. But that's basically the technique.
Wow.
And I've got a couple others like that I've done. So I started with this one, so just so you see different kinds of pictures, and then using that, it turns into that. And it's kind of an interesting way to take pictures that you liked, but nobody else really liked, and kind of turn them into something they might like. I have a lot of those. Here's one of a plaza I took from a hotel in Hanoi.
Wow.
Here's that Magic Castle in Los Angeles you saw a minute ago.
I like that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I've done dozens of them, and each one is different, and I sort of try to recreate it and do it. I can't do it twice the same way. It comes out different every time.
Yeah.
And here's the San Francisco skyline. I took this driving across the Bay Bridge while we were moving, and it's kind of not much as a picture, but using the painterly effect, I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I got, and like I said, I'll be happy to send out the steps, and you can try it. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yes, please. I'd love to try it.
Yeah.